Hi, everybody. This is Tara Meyer-Robson, and this is my first Google Hangout, so bear with me. I hope that I'm going to use this correctly. I think I've got it, but we'll find out. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to become an empowered empath. So some of you may already know that you are an empath and that you're coming to this and you're aware that you're an empath. You've always been a highly sensitive person. You can soak in other people's emotions very easily. And it may be oftentimes very overwhelming for you. I can tell you that it certainly was for me, as I had to learn how to, that I was an empath and then learn how to control it. And in fact, actually to use it for good. There were certainly periods in my life when I really thought being an empath was a curse. For others of you, you may not be aware that you are an empath at this time. And if that's the case, you can actually take an empath test, or you may suspect that you're an empath, but you have not, you sort of verified it. And if that's the case, you can actually take a empath test at tarameyer-robson.com. So it's just my name completely across, which, by the way, hopefully this little thingy is pointing the right direction. I'm not sure. So it's tarameyer-robson.com. And if you go to tarameyer-robson.com, you'll see a section on Empowered Empath. And if you click on that, you will see an option to take the empath test. And that has about many of us are sort of on the empathic scale. There's sort of the scale from empaths all the way down to narcissists. And so many of us are on the empathic scale, but probably only about, according to psychologists, only about 5% of the population is truly an empath. So what is an empath? What it basically means is that you have the ability to pick up other people's emotions. And you can do that usually without any conscious thought. And that actually is what can make it very overwhelming for you, because you can be walking through a mall, you can be sitting in class, you can be, wherever, sitting with a friend, and suddenly you'll just feel completely overwhelmed with emotions of whatever might be going on. And because of that, most of the time, empaths go through a period of time in their lives where they actually feel like they're crazy. They literally feel like they are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I think is the saying. And I'm sitting here and I can tell you with absolutely every assurance that you are not crazy. What you are is an empath. So what are some of the traits of an empath? Well, one of the things that's very, very obvious is that you will be able to feel profoundly other people's emotions. You can't watch the news. The news is very overwhelming for you. You cannot watch or hear about traumatic events without feeling very, very overwhelmed and very disabled, sort of, for quite a while, just very overwhelmed. You'll most of the time be very hypersensitive to things like noise. Empaths, their nervous system is just more finely tuned than other people's. And what that essentially means is you're just super, super sensitive to any kinds of changes in your environment. You may be the one that you walk in a room and you can feel that it's sort of stuffy. There's like no moving air, and people make fun of you because you've constantly got to be messing with the thermostat. That's one of the things. You may hear a noise that's driving you completely crazy that nobody else seems to be able to hear. You'll oftentimes be able to walk into a room and sense the emotional state of a person or people within that room. So that's very common. I can think of times when I would be able to walk in to my boss and be able to, before I even saw him, my former boss, I should say, I would know that he was having a bad day, or he was very angry, or whatever that might be. So that's some of the things that you may be experiencing if you're an empath. There's a whole long list of even more. So as I say, you can actually take the empath test if you're not sure if you're an empath, or you just want to see where you are on the scale, how much of an empath, if you're just kind of a normal empath or an extreme empath. you can go just to Meyer-Robson.com, and you can actually go right in there and go into becoming an empowered empath and take the test. So without further ado, let's talk about how you become an aware empath. It's so important that if you think you're an empath, or indeed if you take the test and you find out that you are one, that you start to bring some awareness to that. Because what happens for most of us is we just end up soaking in all of these other people's emotions, and suddenly we'll just feel like we are ready to collapse, or indeed we may actually collapse. I can tell you that before I realized that I was an empath, and before I developed out all of the tools that I am now teaching people in the Empowered Empath Academy, before I developed those things out, I had days when I would have to come home, climb in bed, sometimes completely fully clothed, like in a suit from my day, and I would climb in and actually have to pull the covers over my head and just not have anybody talk to me for a little while. Even my husband, who I adore, I just couldn't take anymore. Couldn't take any more stimulation from the outside world. And that's pretty common. So how do you go about starting to develop out your empathic abilities so that they feel more like a gift than a curse? Because I can tell you there were definitely times when I would lay in bed and literally say, you know, God, higher power, source, whatever you want to call the higher power that you believe in, you know, why would you make me feel this much with no reason? Like, I couldn't figure out what the heck I was supposed to do with this. So eventually what I finally realized was that I was supposed to profoundly help people. I was supposed to do things to help heal people. Empaths at their hearts are always healers, always helpers. That's just ingrained into our very souls. But the problem is when we don't have the tools to be able to deal with that, that's where we start to get very run down and very worn out, and we start helping everybody in the whole world, whether or not they want it, whether or not they need it, and running ourselves to the point that we just kind of fall, you know, completely fall over. So my 4 steps to becoming an empowered empath are what I call the 4 A's of becoming an empowered empath. And I did them in 4 A steps because honestly, it makes it easy to remember. It's also very simple as you put it into practice. When you first start to put this into practice, it will feel awkward to you. It will feel difficult to you. And that's understandable. You know, it can be, it's just a process. It's, you know, practice makes perfect. It's true. It's one of those things that, you know, you have to do something over and over and over again until it becomes a habit. So at first, this will take conscious effort on your part to be able to start to implement these 4 A's, and also to actually be able to do so in a way that's pretty easy and pretty simple for you. But the more that you do it, the quicker you'll be able to implement these 4 A's into practice and be able to use them. I can tell you that now, whenever I'm in a situation, I automatically use the 4A practice, oftentimes without really consciously thinking about it anymore. And I will literally be able to just kind of boom, 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 go through the practice, and I'll be able to really assess whose emotions these are, what I'm supposed to do about it, and take some action upon that. So it can become quite simple once you get going on it. So what's our first A? The first A is aware. And I should pause and say, if you are already part of the Empowered Empath Academy, then you will be able to download this lesson sheet, and also this journal that you can keep that will start to help you to keep the practice together and really to start to direct and understand very deeply how your system tells you what's going on around you and use it. But if you're not, you can go to Meyer-Robson.com and you can sign up to be interested in being on my Empowered Empath Academy list, and you'll be able to download this lesson sheet, which you can keep with you. Keep it in your bag, print off a few of them, keep it in your purse, keep it at your desk, whatever, stick it on your mirror in the morning. This way you can actually keep yourself on track and be able to use these very simply. Okay, so the first A is aware. as I just said, what ends up happening for us as empaths is we will be, let's say you go to the theater or you go to a sporting event, okay, and you're out in this group of people, and you were feeling perfectly fine seconds before, and then all of the sudden you will feel anger, feel really angry or really, really off all of a sudden, right? So you were fine. You were like just sitting there, enjoying yourself, getting ready for the theater, getting ready for whatever the sporting events, whatever you're watching. And suddenly you just feel this strong emotion and you're not really sure what the heck's going on. Like, I know empaths who have been diagnosed with mental disorders, and they do not have a mental disorder. What they are doing is they are picking up other people's emotions, and it makes them look like they have some sort of manic disorder or bipolar disorder or something like that, when in fact they don't. What they have is the roller coaster of being an empath in many ways. So you're in this situation, suddenly your emotions change. Or I just had one person in the Empath Academy tell me this story that really brings this entire idea of bringing your awareness to this really home. She was in a class, a college class, and she started to feel this intense feeling of panic, and then this intense feeling of wanting to cry, and just wanting this intense fear. And she couldn't really figure out what that was coming from, because she was just sitting there in class. It was a perfectly fine class. She didn't feel like there was anything in particular that was, making her feel angry or fearful or sad. But she was very, very overwhelmed. She said if she could have run out of the classroom and fallen into tears outside the door, she would have. What she did not realize at that point was that she was actually picking up the experience of another classmate that was near her. She wavered for a second as they came out of class, and then ended up saying to this other person, gosh, I had the weirdest feeling, and described the feeling to her. At that point, that classmate was able to say, yeah, actually, I had just exactly at the point that you were feeling that, I was thinking about, I just got away from my abusive boyfriend, and I was thinking about how afraid I had been feeling and how awful of an experience it was. That encapsulates what I'm talking about. Now, this girl thankfully had enough awareness to say, I don't think this is my emotion, and I think it's somebody else's, and let me try to figure out whose it is and what's going on. So how do you use this idea of awareness in your day-to-day life? If you start to have those kinds of things where you're feeling emotions that you're not sure that are yours, or that whatever, you're just sensing all this stuff and suddenly you're picking it up, you've got to become conscious of it. Okay, so that's where the aware comes in. You must become conscious. I'm feeling this in this moment. I'm feeling this in this present moment. What's going on? The next thing you do is you ask yourself, is this my emotion? Because it can be. We empaths are human. You have human emotions, so you could certainly be feeling any kind of emotion. Or is this someone else's emotion? Now, if you're in a one-on-one conversation with someone, it's pretty easy to tell. If it's not your emotion, then it must be someone else's. Now, an easy way to be able to tell if it's your emotion or not is to ask yourself, like, is there anything I would be angry of? Am I conscious of something that would be making me feel angry? Am I conscious of something that would be making me feel jealous? Pay attention, give a name, like, what is the emotion that I'm feeling right now? What is it? What is this emotion? So maybe it feels like anger, and you say, okay, that's anger, or that's sadness. And then if it's not yours, if you can determine, like, say, no, okay, this is not my emotion, I must be picking this up somewhere. Then, as I say, if you are in a one-on-one situation, well, if it's not yours, process of elimination, it's it's the other person's. But if you are, as I say, in like in a group event, if you're at a mall, if you are at the theater, if you are in a sporting event, and all of this is like washed over you, it can be more difficult to determine whose emotion it is. Okay. So literally then the next step is, if it's not your emotion, you say, okay, whose emotion is this? Because it is important to try to like sort out what's going on. Bringing conscious awareness to this sort of like empathic information is how you empower yourself to be able to use it for your own good, being able to help you make positive decisions and do positive things in your life, and also for the good of other people. So now you say, okay, well, it's not my emotion, it's not their emotion, whose emotion is it? And what I usually do is I just start to consciously literally focus myself in on each person that might be around me. So if I'm in a group event, I focus, on the people in front of me, the people behind me. I tend to be super sensitive to picking up emotions behind me for whatever reason. I just am. It's like I've got a zillion antennas all over my back or something. And you might too. Some empaths are just have a lot of energy behind them for some reason. So start to focus your emotion on each person, as you go around. Is it this person's emotion? And stop for a second, pay attention, kind of open yourself enough to pay attention. Am I feeling this from this person? Usually what'll happen is if it is coming from that individual, you'll feel something within your body. And in the next step, we'll talk about like how you start to decipher some of that, but you'll feel an increase oftentimes in that emotion. So if it's that person and it's sadness, you'll suddenly feel even more sadness when you zone in on that individual. Okay. So that will help you in the process of actually identifying whose emotion it is that you're dealing with or that you're picking up on. Okay. So that is aware, bringing conscious awareness to the fact that you are soaking in emotions, determining whose emotions it is, and then moving on to the next step, okay, which is acknowledge. My little sheet. Sorry, the lights are kind of bright, so in my little studio. Oh, and I should say you can ask questions if I can figure out where the Q&A is. You're welcome to ask questions live as well while we are doing this. So there's a Q&A section as well that you can hop in on and ask me questions within there, and I will certainly try to do that. And there's also a chat feature. Let's go up there, and you're welcome to put a message up in the chat as well if you like. So our next step is, our next A is acknowledge. Okay, so we now have become aware that this is not our emotion, it's someone else's emotion. We've assessed whose emotion it is. And the next step is to start to ask yourself, okay, I've identified this emotion and what this emotion is and who it's from. So I've said this is anger and it's coming from this guy over here. Okay. Now, what you want to do in order to really empower yourself to be able to use your empathic information in the right way is start to focus in on how that emotion in particular manifests in your body individually. The thing that makes us empaths, and the thing that is very much in common for us as empaths, is that we all pick up the emotions of everyone and everything around us, right? That's the common factor. That's the definition of being an empath. However, how we individually sense various emotions or various energetic information is very unique to ourselves. So that is important for you to start to bring that awareness and acknowledge how it actually manifests within your body. For me, if I encounter anger that I was not expecting, well, who's expecting anger really? But if I encounter anger out in the world, it feels like somebody actually sort of socked me in the gut. It feels, I oftentimes will feel like sick to my stomach. If I encounter like really super heavy sadness or like major burdensome sadness, it'll feel like there's something really major sitting on my shoulders. It'll be very achy and very painful. If I'm encountering fear, major amounts of fear, I will start to feel that kind of like panicky vibration inside my body. It's like my body's actually shaking inside my skin, especially if it's super, super intense, excuse me, levels of fear. Now that's me. For each and every one of us as empaths, it's going to be different. I know people that I've worked with that say that they'll feel anger in the bottom of their feet. It'll feel like their feet get hot. I know people who say that they'll feel sadness like a big lump in their throat. I know people, it's very different. Each one of us as empaths is quite unique. So you've got to bring that awareness. So now say to yourself, okay, it's this emotion. How exactly is that emotion manifesting in my body? What you're doing by doing that, and I totally suggest writing it down. It doesn't have to be in the moment because oftentimes you don't have the time or whatever to do that. But after the event, actually write it, make note of it mentally, and then write it down. What you're doing when you do that is you start to create your own body language dictionary, or, well, body language dictionary is probably the best way to say it. So you can start to say, okay, when I sense this kind of anger, I feel these things. That's how my body is telling me what's going on. Because again, when you're starting to feel something, when you're starting to have some sort of manifestation, a shakiness, a desire to flee, anger on the bottom of your feet, or hotness on the bottom of your feet, whatever it is, that is your body's way of trying to speak to you. It is your literal body language. And we need to start to create literally a body language dictionary for yourself, because when you do that, it is your own empathic key to understanding really quickly what's going on. The more that I've done this, the quicker I can assess what I've just walked into. So I will know if I feel a tingle, like a really bad tingle, like the hair standing up on the back of my neck, I know I've just encountered somebody with really bad negative energy, and I need to assess that situation quick. And I certainly need to get away from that person. I've had it happen in business where somebody wanted to partner with me and they walked behind me. I had not met this person before, and I actually felt them walk behind me. So on the back of my neck, and I thought, oh my gosh. I turned around and thought, wow, that's intense. That's not where I want to go with this. So I, of course, did not partner with that individual to work. So you see, this is how you start to use your empathic gifts as a gift instead of a curse, because you're now empowering yourself to say, okay, all right, I'm picking this stuff up anyways. Now I'm using this information for good, for my good and for the good of other people. Because when you get this kind of information and you pay attention to it, not only can you maybe help somebody who's in pain or whatever is going on that you're sensing, but you can also help others if it's a situation that you need to get people out of, whatever it is. You're picking up this stuff. Now we can use it for good. Okay, so that's the second A, which is acknowledge. Okay, it's figuring out how does this physically manifest within your body individually, so that you can start to be very aware of what different emotions are sort of telling you within your system. Okay, so our third A on our sheet is ask. And this is a really important next step, because this lets your system know, your energetic and emotional system know, that you are taking this seriously, you're now paying attention, and you're going to use this information. So you ask yourself, what, if anything, should I do here? Now, the if anything is really important, because as empaths, we tend to think that whenever we encounter any kind of negativity, any kind of difficult situation, we should just jump in there and help out. You know, we are what I call auto helpers. You know, we've just got this like toggle and it doesn't turn off, and we jump in and we try to help. There are legitimately situations where we really aren't intended to do anything about the situation. Sometimes it's just, you picked up that information, you picked up that emotion, and it's knowledge that you have. Sometimes it's just something that you picked up as you were walking around and you cannot and are not supposed to do anything with. I've encountered people, you know, when I'm out and about in the world and I walk by them and I think, oh my God, they're so sad. And when I really pay attention, it's like, should I say something? Should I ask something? And sometimes yes. Sometimes the answer is no. So you want to really, this is an important thing to start to tune in. You want to tune in to your gut instinct. And there's a reason that it's called the gut instinct. Like literally, this is where in our system, we are given important intuitive information, important instinctive information to be able to help us to keep us safe, and also to make these kinds of decisions over how you should use the information you're picking up empathically. One of the things that I find very, very, very helpful, and I certainly found very helpful as I started to really tune into my own gut instinct and started to use that kind of like empathic gut instinct to be able to choose how to approach a situation, is you take your dominant hand. And it's really important, especially if you're just not used to tuning into your gut instinct. Take your dominant hand and actually place it over your stomach. You can do this even like you're riding on a bus, riding in a subway. Nobody's going to pay any attention to what you're up to. So you just, even riding in a car, just put your hand on your stomach. If anybody asks, you can just say, oh, my stomach felt weird for a second. It's no big deal. But if you put your hand over your stomach, what it does is you're actually physically connecting. You're connecting your physical body, you're connecting your brain and the neural pathways directly into your stomach, and you're making sure that you're bringing that awareness down right under your hand. Okay. So that is a really good, that's like sort of an easy tip to be able to really start to tune into your gut instinct very strongly a little bit quicker. Now, as you get better at this, obviously, as I said, as I started, the more that you practice it, the quicker I can get a gut instinct pretty quick on things. If the answer, so you ask yourself, what, if anything, should I do here? Should I do anything here? And then just pay attention for a second. Pay attention to how your gut feels. Oftentimes, I will have people, when I have worked with people and helping them to tune into that, if the answer is no, you shouldn't do anything here, they'll start to feel like they're rocking a little bit. They're sort of uncertain. They're wavering, a little bit. And that will be a key for them that no, that's not something you want to get involved in, or it's not something you are supposed to do anything about. Other times they'll get this feeling of extreme heaviness. It'll feel like your stomach kind of just sinks, a little bit. Again, here's another aspect where you need to be aware and acknowledge, you need to pay attention. How is your gut instinct telling you what you need to do? And really pay attention to it. An example in my own life is a few years ago when I used to work with my dad in business. I was walking down the hall. We were sort of attached to another company. And there was this really lovely girl, absolutely one of the most bright, shiny people you'd meet. And we were passing each other in the hall, and she kind of walked past me, and I had this sickness in the stomach feeling that I was like, oh my God, my immediate thought was, wow, she is really sad and had a horrible, horrible fight this morning. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why am I even thinking this? But I mean, I felt it in my body. I felt like a person that would just, like you just got hit in the stomach and would want to kind of bend forward. And I instinctively knew in this particular situation that I was supposed to turn around and say something. So I turned around and said, are you okay? I said, so-and-so, I will not give her name. Are you okay? Are you okay? And she turned around and began to sob and explained to me that the man that she had recently married, and I'm talking like 3 weeks prior, had decided after marriage, was not this way prior to marriage, had become abusive. And she had a gigantic fight with him that morning. And so I was able to, because of this, and this is where this can really help as an empath. You can actually help people when you pay attention. You use these 4 A's and you pay attention to what you're supposed to be doing in a situation. And I sort of ushered her to the bathroom, and we sat in there probably 45 minutes and talked and worked on getting her the help that she needed to be able to get out of that situation. And she did indeed get out of that situation, not through just my help, but through certainly the help of other resources as well. So that is sort of, I hope, a story that can kind of illuminate when you pay attention to what you are supposed to do in a situation. And if you are supposed to get involved, it can help somebody profoundly, and it can be a very positive outcome. The other aspect, though, is that when you are paying attention, let's say you are in a situation where you're feeling a lot of negativity and fear around you, and you've identified this negativity and fear is not coming from you. You're feeling it inside your system, however you feel that. And then you ask yourself, by paying attention to your gut, what should I do here? The answer can be, get the hell out of there. And excuse the French, but literally get the heck out of there. Get away from that person. You could be in a situation that is not safe for your kids, is not safe for you. We have all probably been in situations where we felt and sensed that somebody that was around us was not a good person, that there was something just wrong in the situation. And we got away from it because we listened to this gut instinct. Well, we as empaths have an even stronger gut instinct than the average person. So the answer may be, get the heck away from this person as fast as possible. The answer may be, as it is sometimes, this is a bad situation and I need to step in and try to get people either calm down or get people out of the situation. Okay, so there's many different variations on what your system may tell you depending on the situation and the information that you're getting and your own gut instinct. The most important part is to begin to trust that gut instinct and to begin to trust the empathic information that you are getting in the situation. And that brings me to our final A, which is act. And that is whatever your gut instinct is telling you to do, whatever you feel is the right decision, after you've assessed all of this, do it. Trust it, act on it. What happens is when we ignore, and as unaware empaths, we've gone through much of our life ignoring all of these signs and signals and everything else. And when we ignore it, not only do we get ourselves into bad situations, do we get ourselves into relationships with people we should not be in relationships with that are energy vampires or narcissists or just bad people, or we get into business situations with people that you shouldn't be in, or we stay in situations that we shouldn't be in. When we are unaware empaths, it really can also make us sick because our system is trying to tell us that something is wrong, and it's trying very hard to protect us and or protect people around us, depending on the situation. So the more that we ignore it, the more that we can end up with things like stomach issues, stomach ulcers, cardiovascular issues, especially if we're ignoring how we feel emotionally in a situation or with a person, and we keep ignoring it. That can lead to things like blockages in the heart and the veins and so forth, and other cardiovascular problems. So when we're unaware and we're not acting upon this information, or we're ignoring these instincts that we have, it can be a very bad thing. We get ourselves into bad places and bad relationships, and we end up with bad health. It's not a good thing. As an empath, because you are more sensitive than the average person, it's even more important that you do listen to this. So in order to start sending out that signal that, yes, I am going to begin trusting the instincts that I am getting right now, and I'm trusting the empathic instincts that I'm getting, you're going to want to actually take action on whatever it is that you are instinctively feeling that you should do. Okay, trust it and act on it. Now, what I highly suggest that you do is that you actually keep a little journal as you go through the day and as you encounter different situations, and put down, okay, did I act? Okay, how did I feel about this? What was going on? How was it feeling within my body? Again, very important to get that body language dictionary, individual body language dictionary together. And then to actually start to say, okay, what was my instinct? Did I act on that instinct? And then if I did act on it, did I feel like it was the right thing? Was it a positive outcome for me or for people around me, or was I able to do more help because of it? Or did I feel like it was the wrong thing? I think as you start to journal that, and I suggest you journal it because, we tend to forget when we've had things that go well, or that we paid attention to our instincts and it was the right thing to do. I think as you pay attention to the instincts and actually act upon them and increase your trust in your own instincts, you're going to be amazed at how many times you look back and go, oh my gosh, that was absolutely the right decision. I did listen to it and I got myself out of a bad situation or away from a bad person. And I'm able to get, it moved me forward in a positive way. The great thing is the more that you actually trust these instincts and act upon them, the stronger and more accurate they become for you. Okay. So as I say, the more that you actually practice, awareness, acknowledge, ask, and then act, the quicker you can move through this entire process, and the stronger information you get, more accurate information you get that can help you and allow you to help others in appropriate ways when you're supposed to actually get involved and help that individual as well. Now, what do you do after you go through these 4 A's? At that point, what you want to do is something I call the disconnect and shield. Disconnect means actually consciously disconnecting your energy from whatever the situation is, because when you don't do that, you end up very, very, very exhausted. It's like, I don't know, leaving something on and the battery drains out. You know, if you leave your phone on too long and don't recharge it, it's just connected to Bluetooth or whatever, it will drain out. In the same way, when we don't, as empaths, disconnect and pull our energy back, you will stay connected to whatever the emotions are. And in fact, it could be you stay connected to 20 people's emotions because you have all these people you're trying to help in your life and all these things you're trying to do. And when you do not disconnect from that, you will blow your circuits out, is what I call it. And I have gone through it, so I can speak from experience. It is not a good thing to do. And so now I always, always, always consciously disconnect from other people's emotions. And then I do what I call the shield. I actually put mentally a protective shield around me that will actually makes me feel empowered and puts up sort of this energetic, you know, if you were a Star Wars person, it's like the force around you. And you can actually put that all around you. And it is amazing how empowering that is to actually have this very centered feeling that you have the power to be able to protect yourself with this shield of energy that is positive energy for you. Now, if you are interested in finding out more about specifically how to do the disconnect, how to do the shield, how to become, actually have access to a ton of guided meditations, visual meditations, and many, many, many other things that I have available as part of the Empowered Empath Academy. Again, you can go to my site, tarameyer-robson.com. And by doing so, you can, sorry, I'm going over here to see if I had that pulled up for you, I think somewhere. I don't know where. It's in there somewhere, you'll see it. Maybe you can see it, but anyways, it's, you can go to tarameyer-robson.com and just look for Empowered Empath at the top navigation bar, and you can get tons of help right there. And you can also find out how to become part of the Empowered Empath Academy. There's a 30-day free trial for you, and then it's actually very, very, very inexpensive for you to be able to join, because I really, in my heart of hearts, just want to try to help as many wonderful, kind-hearted, and beautiful empaths out there to actually go from being exhausted, as I certainly was when I did not know what the heck was going on with me as an empath, and move on to becoming empowered. I'm going to look really quickly and see if we do have any. I don't see any questions. Let's see, double check the chat. Any questions? Okay. If you end up having any questions as well, I do, as part of just my site, I do also put an Ask Tara aspect up there. I love answering people's questions, so please do send any questions in to me. Again, you can do that through the contact form on my website at tarameyer-robson.com, which is TARAMEYER-ROBSON, all one word.com. And you can find me on there. You can find me on Google+. Please do follow me on Google+, and I will follow you back. And as I said, I hope you've enjoyed this. I would love any comments or questions that you do have. Until next time, I will be doing more of these Hangouts going forward. So until next time, I hope that you stay empowered, and please, please, please put these put the 4 A's into practice. Oh, and again, if you want to download the 4 A's practice so that you have it and can print it and can take it along with you somewhere, again, go to my site and under Empowered Empath Academy, and I think it's under also the Empath test, you can just simply sign up and you will get an email back that will allow you to be able to download this so that you can keep it with you at all times and be able to hopefully use it to start to become empowered and very, very aware of your empathic gifts. Until next time, please stay empowered. I hope that this was very helpful for you, and I very much look forward to connecting with you either through Google+ or the Empowered Empath Academy. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.